So just an acknowledgement of this amazing journey that we are on together, spinning through space, wondering how the heck did we get here? And looking at, wow, what's our next breath gonna bring? And just having an appreciation for deepening our continuing expanding connection with the field, expanding our connection with all that is, and being in gratitude for simply being. Having an awareness that we are on a journey and we are evolving and making progress towards something that's out there, I don't know, just a continuing experience and learning about collaborating and teaming together and connecting, expanding our ohana, and having fun along the way. So appreciating the magic and the joy and the lightening up of, wow, I wonder what we're gonna do now. I'm complete.
I'm thinking of Marion when she goes,
wow.
John hasn't seen that in person.
Nope.
You'll have an opportunity. She's going to be doing a 4-week Zoom Tai Chi program for the Center for Spiritual Living, starting in another week or two. And it's virtual. She'll have eight students in class or live, and that class part's already full, and so now it's expanding it out virtually. And seeing who comes in, and that'll be fun. Raise money for the center.
I think that's the big part of our agenda for the day, is to talk about raising money, but let's do a check-in first, shall we? Check-in, who wants to start?
Well, I'll do a brief check-in. Yeah, a lot of things happening. I'm going to be flying back to my hometown on Friday. My 60-year-old brother passed away from cancer. Actually, it was while the peace day was happening on Friday. What not unexpected, he's been in hospice for a couple of weeks, but so I have that. And really, yeah, I mean, I just hanging in there and doing some writing and starting a little work on another video project, and just appreciating all of you. There's my check-in.
I'll go. I really enjoyed the weekend. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of that. And Glenn, it was great that you were there on Sunday, because that was my first time kind of behind the scenes in the Zoom world. Thanks to Julie Down, gave me a quick a bunch of us a quick overview Friday night, so I was a little bit prepared. I realized just before this meeting that I've been sending Julie and Glenn some emails last week that did not get to them. They somehow went to some outbox folder, so I'm gonna resend them. I want to thank you, Glenn, for reading over the documents for me. My email was that I sent you more.
Thank you, I'm sure.
And the ones that I just sent you are more connection field specific. So if you want to pass those off on someone else, just let me know and I can ask John or Linda. But more are coming. So I'm not sure if you're watching the Trello list yet with your name, but that's where I'm sending them. And yeah, much appreciation for that. We are very close to having a manual. And I think this good of the whole manual, policies and procedures, will be adding as more things come up, but it's happening and documents are being made as we speak. I'm doing a lot of different tasks simultaneously, but it's
how
all
are
in the
you?
works.
How
Huh?
are you? How are
Oh,
you?
Good question.
focused on you all. Focused on good of the whole. I'm well. Thank you. I had a job end today and feeling really good about that. A friend of mine sent me a quote today that I really loved, and it is I'm learning to love hearing my footsteps walk away from things that are not for me or that are not meant for me. And I feel very much that resonates with the job that I just ended. It was very much not meeting me at my potential, nor was there growth involved. So just feeling really free and really inspired and happy to be here.
All right. Well, I'll just jump in right behind you and say I'm happy to be here too. It's like, whoa. I have gratitude every day for being where I am physically on the planet. And I go out. I was out this morning at about 7:05, raking the beach, cleaning up the beach. And I do that. I'm in a routine. I've been doing it now for a couple of months, almost every morning. Not quite every morning, but even the mornings before this weekend, I would go out for like 30 to 40 minutes and just be in the sand, raking up, making piles of stuff that needs it's just nicer, neater, cleaner. And I'm gaining a reputation around here as the raker. So it's just just a simple thing, but it takes me outside. I my gloves and my rake, and I just walk in the sand. And some days I spend an hour and a half out there today, and some days it's 30 minutes, and it's just it's become my morning grounding exercise meditation, or I don't know, just making a small little contribution to the neighborhood. So I just appreciate that, and I appreciate hanging out with you guys. So let's party.
So Glenn, may I ask what is it that you're raking up?
Oh, we have storms that hit the island, and so debris washes down the rivers. Pieces of trees and limbs and tree trunks and all sorts of riffraff of stuff that ends up floating up on our beaches, and I just clean up the ones I get to.
Are you seeing much plastic?
Some.
Yeah.
We have some places on our island that have a lot of plastic. We get plastic from Fukushima, continuing from Japan. So yeah, we have and a lot more microplastic. I'm complete.
Well, John, I'm sorry to hear about your brother. Yeah, sorry. And I think I would love to go out every morning and rake the beach. I think that would just be, that would be amazing. Yeah, I felt really tired Saturday. Friday was so uplifting and so expansive, and then Saturday was so heavy. There were the topics and the gravity of what's happening on the planet and the truth telling, and it was like, oh, moving into activism felt like I had concrete shoes on that day. And then part of me was in such deep gratitude of Glenn showing up again on Saturday and not knowing if he was coming on Sunday. Then I'm like, oh no, what are we gonna do about tomorrow? Like, oh no. And then Linda said, I'm coming back tomorrow and Glenn's coming back tomorrow. And I went, oh, great. It's not just Andrea and I. And then I had asked Julie down and she said, I can only come for part. So I was in such great gratitude, but just physically, I just noticed, Friday was so expansive. And then Saturday was just like, wow, the topic was heavy and whoa. And then Sunday felt so good again. And I mentioned this morning on the call that Andrea and Glenn, you weren't there, but I think I did this on the Heart Rest call this morning. Months ago when Bob Atkinson asked if I would co-host and if we would co-produce this. And I went, well, yeah, but there's so much happening and, that I would really want it to be resonant, coherent. I would really want it to be. And then we went through September and I'm like, whoa, Bob, all this stuff happening during Unity, the Caravan of Unity, and then Unity Week, and then the Up Convergence with 300,000 rooms that everybody could go in, and all, I said, oh my Bob, we have to create coherence. And it's time for all of our leaders and organizations to begin to cohere. That we're past the creating. Barbara's quote about creating the islands of coherence in chaos. I said, we're past that. We have islands of coherence that now need to become coherent. I said, we have to do that. So, so yesterday, the best part of the entire day was hearing Kurt Johnson say how much coherence there was in the 3 days and how much he appreciated that. And I'm like, yes, we did that. We created the coherence. And especially when that came out of the blue, and I told Bob, we have to do the coherent. We have to create coherence. We have to come into this space in a beautiful way and try to pull the threads through and make it feel, just like one nice event. And so Kurt had put something in the chat about the coherence, but then said it out loud in the lobby time when we were talking. So that felt good to see that someone who had no idea that we were aiming for coherence to just come out of the blue and use our very words. This was so coherent. And his I'll read this to you guys as feedback because I thought it was wonderful. Was they just sent out a One Planet Peace Forum survey, by the way. You guys probably will get it. So Bob wrote, oops, let's see here. In his summary, it was one moment. This is what Bob sent out to all the volunteers and the presenter, the committee, all their people, and he put, there were so many wonderful comments in the chat box throughout. Just one example from Kurt Johnson, who presented on Saturday, and I know personally that he literally viewed hundreds of hours of online programming this month, because he did. Kurt Johnson was producing hours, let alone there. He was a part of 2 Voice America productions that were marathons, and he put out his magazine. I mean, he was a part of putting the content out, and he was a part of the Caravan of Unity. And I mean, he literally, for September being the season of peace, he was on a lot of the content. So he wrote that Kurt said at the end of Sunday in the comments, fantastic 3 days of content, ... best of the peace season, I think. So that felt good that Kurt acknowledged it. And then verbally, he did say that there's so much coherence, and he really appreciated the coherence. And I thought, yes, then we were successful. So anyway, I was really tired Saturday, and I was really grateful Sunday that everyone stepped up. Glenn, I was incredibly grateful for you to be that coherence for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday showing up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That just took this huge worry off my shoulders of, yeah, I knew Andrea was just learning, and I'm like, oh no, what, let's just, it's so nice to have you there and to have everyone show up. So that felt really good. And yesterday was Kevin's birthday. So I felt really kind of guilty months ago when I said, sure, I'll MC this. And then I'm like, oh, that's Kevin's birthday. But he worked outside and entertained himself and had a great weekend, I think, for his birthday weekend. And then we had dinner with the kids last night. And for the first time ever, the kids invited us over for their dad's birthday, and they did everything. They cooked, and I didn't even take a side dish. Like, imagine that. And then Kevin, so I was downtown doing the Peace Forum, and Kevin went to the store, and I don't know why he had went to the store to pick up something, and picked up birthday hats and those little party things, those blowers that you blow, and they yeah, those things, and poppers, that you pop and they go. So he got that and totally entertained our granddaughter for hours with that. And she was literally, we were having those little wars with those little blowy kazooie things, and playing with the hats and making different configurations and popping those poppers. And she just had a blast on Papa's birthday. She had so much fun. And so it was a good way to end the weekend, is to just go over there and for the first time, not cook, not take a dish, not be responsible. And Kevin had a great birthday. So that was awesome. So you're right, Glenn. I could use a day or a month off too. I feel like, wow, September. I felt like all 2020 and for me hasn't been, oh my gosh, look what everything is going on. Look at COVID-19. Look at all of 2020 has been like September. Like September is going to be so big. And most of it was, are we doing the caravan? Are we not doing the caravan? Are we doing the caravan? Are we not doing, and that kind of thing, until finally it was like, yeah, we're doing the caravan. So I do feel this big sigh of relief. Thank you, Marianne. Wow. And I've been feeling this big, expansive exhale. I feel like October, November, December is like this nice, fertile, spacious, creative, yummy time. I'm really feeling it. Like, wow, what's coming? I have no idea what the universe is bringing, but it feels like October, November, December is going to be exquisite. I'm really feeling it. I'm just really sensing and seeing something that I can't describe yet. So that feels really good. And yeah, I think that's a good enough check-in for me. I am a little bit tired, but gonna
I
get
just,
more.
I just want to back up just for a moment. And Julie, you did a stellar job on Friday. Was the only day I really attended, and but talk about cohesiveness. You really provided that. Your energy was great. Your articulation was what everyone expects, and so I was personally impressed. And you jumped in a couple of times when you needed to bring it back, and you did that with grace and efficiency without offending anybody. So I just think you did a really great job.
Oh, thank you.
And I agree. And one thing I noticed is that doing 3 days of the spotlighting is pushing it, because I noticed that I cut off your video once, and I invited you back right quick.
Yeah.
But Andrea, I don't know that you know, but when you're spotlighting someone and then it's time they come to the end of their speaking, then they have to turn the spotlight off, so that when the person speaks, it's speaker view, so they jump right in. And then I have to go onto their page, their picture, and make them spotlighted. But so you have to, bring your cursor down, find the right spot to check, make sure you check it. Well, one time on Julie, I clicked it a little too soon and got the in video, so I kicked her off once or twice. No, just once, I think. And then I think at the very beginning, Friday too, I think I was setting up a watch party or something and you were talking and introducing things, and I hadn't spotlighted you, and you were just but maybe that looks good, kind of just part of the community, in the crowd. So it's interesting to be on that piece. It's a small chunk, and it requires a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
And also paying attention to the chat room to see if anybody's saying anything that's coming to me that needs to be dealt with, and then going back and forth. But there's a lot of detail in the, let's say, being sort of the techie on the room. And it is very helpful for me to have someone else admitting people to the waiting room, so you're not always looking at that and then having to go write a message or do something else when somebody else is speaking, and maybe there's a change in the speaker, and it can snowball into into a little stress if one's not just right there with it all the time. And so, and while I can pay attention to most of what is said, I find that I'm paying attention to the logistics of what's happening on the screen more so than what is being said. So it takes a focus as we expand our capacity to do these events. And I guess I might suggest that in the future, maybe we take on no more than one a month. And, so maybe this 3 days of hosting something for somebody certainly justifies a sharing of whatever donations they're receiving for doing it. And to bring, I think there's a magic that we do bring now that we can highlight, and that is the coherence, attention to coherence,
Mm-hmm.
and the hosting of the various speakers and that sort of thing. So working with somebody like Bob, I'm guessing there are dozens of organizations that are similar to what Bob has that would love to do something like we just facilitated and helped to host. So it strikes me that is a very current service that we could offer to select ones where we feel alignment and people who are part of our group or part of our community or part of our resource connection. So that's powerful. And then on another topic, John, I need to make a short video about Ohana Legacy Foundation. And I've seen that you're learning about how we put that together, and maybe you'd be up for helping me do that, or doing one with us, or figuring out, 90-second, 2-minute, 2.5-minute intro to what is this and why are we doing it?
Well, I can tell you that I can't take credit for anything that I've done other than writing text and narrating. I hired a little production company to put all that together with all the video and everything else. So I just paid to turn that over to do that. But I do know that Linda's husband, Bill, is obviously efficient. Their video I watched this morning was brilliant. But I can do what I can, but I'm really not very proficient at that. But yeah,
Well,
I'm loving the video concept. I'm sorry.
Your text writing was good, and so that's a part of helping me maybe create the text. And your voice is great for a voiceover.
Yeah.
You're someone in our community. It's like, okay, doesn't need to be me.
Yeah, I get it.
Like, where's that asset base, that we can collaborate and pull together?
I want to make one comment about not only this weekend, but other Zoom room events we've had. This is my personal. I really like, going back to the gallery view in between speakers. I just get this feeling of the community, and even sometimes if the speaker is speaking, if it's not like a keynote speaker, I love watching the reactions of the gallery, of everyone. And so, I do that myself. That doesn't change for everyone, does it? That just changes my screen. Yeah.
Unless you're.
It just changes your screen. Yeah, unless it's me doing it as the host.
Right. And because I want to see reaction, and I want to see what is happening with the depth around the table. So that's just something I like to do.
I want to stay on this for a little bit because we're kind of debriefing this Peace Forum, and I wanted to do that. And there's a couple of things of this thread that you're now pulling through, which is, yes, Glenn, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of attention, mental, you have to be right there. The thing that was really brave and probably bold on our part was to allow it to be with everybody in the Zoom room. Most people would have it in Zoom webinar, and all the participants would be off in Never Never Land, and a few speakers would be there that you're managing. And then there's no question, you're not worrying about people turning on their mics or whatever. We were bold and brave to say, okay, they want it to feel like you're in the auditorium. And I'm with you, John. It feels so much nicer when you can see everyone on the screen, who's in the room. Friday, we had 93, 94 at the highest that I counted. It might have even been higher, but I just noticed a couple times where we have 94 people in the room. This is awesome. We had 200 register, but we had 94, and Saturday and Sunday were a little bit less. So I appreciate that feedback. And I think this is a good time for us to take mental notes and to really ask what worked. I think the feedback you, Glenn, was saying once in a month is probably enough. 3 days in a row for 3.5 hours is a lot. And we could have, obviously, I've learned a lot, like what I would do in the future, and the prep time and the communication time and the recruiting people to do jobs time. And, responding in a way. I would do it all different now that I've learned so much. But wow, I am just in awe of everybody jumping in and helping out, and that was really awesome. And I agree, John. I think that our team helped to create that coherence and that resonance that was in that room for most of the time. And even, I don't know who it was. I think it was you, Glenn. Yeah, it was you and I. Yesterday, Don Pat wanted to jump in. He raised his hand. He wanted to interrupt. And I'm like, so Glenn sends me a private message, and I'm only watching private messages. So that was another way. If it's read, I know it's for me. Otherwise, I'm not reading the chat. There's no way I could do that. So that was a learning piece. But so Glenn says, Don Pat raised his hand, and I see him with his hand raised the whole time, and I'm like, ignore him,
Right.
ignore him. And so Glenn, at one point, Linda at one point yesterday shut the mic off of that one guy who just kept going on and on and on and on and on and on. And Linda, like, 1 minute, please. And she muted him, which was good. And then I muted him 2 other times because he kept wanting to jump in and nobody else had shared. But then it was a
And
good.
I muted him a couple of times too.
Did you really? Wow, we just kept muting. Yeah, he kept trying to get in there. But so that was good. We were a good team. Like, we all knew each other so well. We worked together enough that we could really work and read each other. And then when I saw that Don had raised his hand and wanted to jump in, and then I said something to summarize that we'll all have more time to talk with the kids later and ask our questions. So stay with us, and just try to get Don to lower his hand and know that he can't just interrupt the piece form with his communication. So yeah, that's one thing that the committee can look at for an online in the future, is there was no time for questions from the community. Bob didn't design it that way. So that would be feedback for him that I'll give their committee, that is it important to have more interaction questions, or is the lobby time enough? And they should have publicized that 1 hour afterwards so that people knew they could stay on and be in there. So that's just a little debriefing from my perspective. Anything else you guys want to make notes?
Oh, go ahead, Andrea.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, it was great to be a part of the coherence team. It was a lot of fun. At one point, Don did try to jump in, but I caught him as he was unmuting himself. It was really funny. But also something to consider, at some point I was chatting with Don privately, just letting him know that you are, like, after I saw him try to come in, Julie is aware that you're here. There's going to be time. And then he texted, chatted back what he wanted to say. And I'm like, I encourage you to chat that in the comment box for everyone to see. But to him, I'm not sure how I showed up, if I just showed up as my name, if I showed up as kind of the good of the whole team. So maybe that's something to look at. Everybody behind the scenes chatting with particular people, either to everyone or to particular people, them knowing. I don't know if that's like something.
That's an important piece. You could literally label committee members or something. You were Andrea, so yours was coming as Andrea, because I paid attention to that. Like, how did Andrea log in? And it was Andrea. But that is good to know. Yeah.
So like, that's something like, as we create even more coherence, so we can bring people in, like making sure that they're labeled. Because I was like, Don doesn't know that I'm necessarily, manning the chat room, but he was gracious about it. So, but yeah, it was really interesting. I was able to catch him right away, but when that woman started talking, I couldn't get to it fast enough to mute her.
Yeah, I only had that one time. That was awesome. Just one time that they broke the mic. So,
but it is a lot.
Another thing we might look at is if we're, either have a little gong like this, and give them like a 1-minute warning and then time to close. And so I noticed that was pretty effective here in Kauai. We had a political council candidate forum, and have people had their time, and when they got a minute warning, and then when their time came, they just got muted, and it was like over. That was great.
That would be good.
Being able to hold people.
I did it with the speakers, and I don't know if you guys could hear my chime. Did you ever hear
Not
it?
really. Not really.
Wow. I'm just going to have to bring it right in front of the mic, I think, when I do that. Because I did it with a couple speakers, and they acted like they didn't hear anything. I'm like, maybe they're not. And I'm sure the microphone was already drowning out somebody else's microphone. So how to get their attention, but I did for a couple speakers. Yeah.
Now, also, I'll throw in, when you play a video, I see your picture over on the side in a very small piece, small thumbnail, and your mic is still active, so I can hear you in the background. If you're rustling papers or doing anything, your mic picks that up. It wasn't intrusive, but just something for you to be aware of.
I learned that at the end of the conference because I glanced over at the iPad and I saw my square. Because I have to get up and go to the bathroom during that last video. So I got up, went to the bathroom, and I saw on the iPad, and I'm like, oh no, I know my mic wasn't off. And I know, I'm like, so thank you for that feedback. I learned that too. And that square stays on. I didn't know that because I can't see it on my screen. I just see my whole screen. So thank you for sharing that.
Right.
So,
I suppose something that you could do is just cover your camera. You could put a little something over your camera to black it out if you wanted to. But I don't think you can turn your camera off at that point.
If I don't, well, here's what I learned. Here's what I thought. John, I hope you're hanging on to whatever you wanted to jump
I got
in.
it. Yeah, I'm good.
What I thought, Glenn, was that we have a team, and then the team's going to play that video. Then I could literally turn my camera off and mute myself before. But if I did that, it's like click, 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 and now everybody's hearing. So what I thought after I saw that on the screen, make a note of this, everyone, if we do this again, is that, so let's just say Susie over here is going to do all the videos, do the screen sharing. So then Glenn knows that as soon as Julie's done, to look over at Susie's and spotlight Susie, and she's screen sharing, and on comes. And then you're not like getting me, and then I'm clicking to my desktop and everybody's seeing all those steps. What you could do is Susie already has it queued up and she's ready. She's got it screen shared or ready to screen share, but she has everything's queued up. And then as soon as you leave to go over there to Susie's, then all she has to do is hit that last click and boom, the AV starts, the audio,
Right.
video, the video. So one more person volunteering, but I think that would be an easier way with less
A
click.
little more professional, but you were very efficient in getting the video started. So it worked fine. Nobody, it's part of. I think there's also a piece of this that's about being authentic,
Yeah.
and just everybody's part of the game. I think that's maybe part of the soup. Part of the magic soup too is everyone feels like they're seeing what's going on, and it's not too professional.
Yeah, maybe that's true. And that's why we didn't have it in Zoom webinar too. Because then it would have just been in Zoom webinar, you would just see the AV coming on. You wouldn't see any of my clicks. So maybe you're right there. Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah. John?
Well, first of all, Glenn, I thought it was amazing that you had the expertise to jump in and try to get the Facebook thing working. Because I know Julie didn't have time to get on there and do that. And without even being asked, you just popped in and did that. So I appreciated that. The other thing is on Friday, for the most part, I was watching the waiting room and looking who was coming on, popping in, and like you said, there were 94. I counted 94 people at the top, and it fluctuated back and forth a few, but there were three people wanting in. There was no name, and they were just lines that I wasn't familiar with. But I had a little anxiety over because I know people were paying to get into this thing, and so I didn't let them in initially until, and 2 out of the 3 responded with a name after being asked and got in. One person just stayed in there without responding, and then I didn't let them in, and so they just went away because I didn't want to.
Actually, I think I removed him.
Yeah, you may have removed him. That's
It was a
right.
whole bunch of numbers, He just,
Yeah, and I just left it in there going, if eventually you want to come in with a name, then we'll look at it. But I mean, the last thing I wanted to see is it Zoom bombed, so.
Right.
This is another piece. Thank you, Andrea. Make a mental note of this for our Zoom protocol too, because informing the participants ahead of time that you need to identify yourself, because that person who never got in was somebody that Bob knew, that they said I just sat in this place, I was halfway in and they would never let me in. They probably had no idea that there was a message coming at them. They don't know anything about Zoom. They don't know that they need to identify themselves. So the protocol of how to be a good participant is another thing that we could add to that, that document that says, make sure your name, and here's how you put your name in Zoom before you start. Because I was with you guys. I saw that one come in with a bunch of gobbledygook of letters and numbers, and I'm like, oh no. And so when Bob said there was a couple of people who didn't get in, and I said there was only 2 that I know of, that one was an iPhone that never identified themselves, and the other was the numbers and letters. And so he notified them the next day that they had to have their name and be identified by name on their Zoom account. So yeah, good catch.
And really with 94 people and the variety of sources were coming. I mean, I didn't know, none of us knew all those people. And so if they had a name, I let them in, even though, well, I don't know that name, but at least they were identified. And so I thought that's as safe as we can get.
We had the potential of having the checklist to check them off as they're coming in. And after the first day, I'm like, there's no way we could do that fast enough.
Right.
There's no way we could do it fast enough. So
Exactly.
I let it go, and we didn't have the checklist. But we will be able to get that checklist so we capture their emails, add 200 people to our email list, which will be good.
Beautiful.
Another way that I kind of dealt with that, we had 2 on Sunday. One never identified themselves, and one person did identify themselves. And once they did, they were like, I'm here, I'm trying to get on with my iPhone. And then I let them in. Was as soon as I let them in with a name, I was able to see if they were going to take themselves off mute or if they came in unmuted. And I was like, as soon as I let somebody in, I was like ready to unmute them just in case. So that's kind of how I dealt with that. I don't know if that's helpful, but just
good training stuff here. Really good training stuff.
Kind of tracking them, not just to let them in, but then even with a name, like tracking just for that quick moment after.
So here's another thing for our future toolbox. And then we can move on unless there's a few more things. So Mike Moldow, who is on the caravan, who came to Minden and stayed at my house, and is the cameraman. He is subcontracted through the production company that's doing the caravan. So the production company is up in Canada, and he was in San Francisco, and he's a sub. He used to work for Zoom. And he said, Julie, if you ever want to know the secrets of the trade, you can literally, you can put on a production that doesn't look like everybody else's online Zoom production. And there's ways that you could do frames, you could do your captions, you could, without it being super expensive with other apps that have to, you get on, and like there's this, my Empower Radio has one that the producers putting the captions on and the names and showing a website and showing other videos, and it's like a TV station. It's a beautiful format. And he said, I'll teach you all the tricks of the trade. If you want to create some really fun programming, he goes, you let me know, I'll come volunteer and I'll teach you everything I know, and you guys could put on some kick-ass productions. Because he was in on the early Zoom creation and knows all those secrets. So I'll have to remember to get a hold of him after the caravan.
And there's a way, just for future, maybe not with him because he's just offering to be helpful, but in future there's a way, because you're a 501c3, that if somebody wanted to offer us a service pro bono, like teaching us how to do something, then they could even get that tax deduction for their time.
Yeah.
You know?
Good idea. All righty. Any other briefing from the Peace Forum? What a big thing we did in service of humanity here. It was really cool.
We did, and I think we've got a product here.
Makes me tired thinking about doing it again tomorrow, but yeah.
It does. That's why I say we wouldn't do it more than maybe once a month, but you know, we've got the format to give someone like a Bob. It says, look, your speakers, they get, you know, 6 minutes apiece. We time them. We do that. I mean, we could lay out the whole template of how this goes down. And the question is, it's a 1-day event, 2-day event, 3-day event. And maybe we have a baseline cost. You know, we charge, you know, it's $200 a day or $300 a day, just plus a percentage of your donations, and we handle the technical aspect, and you give us the speakers, and we'll make this all work in a way that serves the good of the whole. I don't know, something. We ought to package that up some way.
I did like the keynotes having just a little bit of time, the way they did that.
That was great.
The original plan that Bob wanted was that they would just open it up to a panel, and there was no time. Like he didn't do the time as well. So I like for our production of the caravan, I had it down to every minute, so I knew exactly when things were going to happen. And a lot of it was pre-recorded, which was helpful, but we had to adapt in real time, and just so I had to spontaneously throw something out at them to respond to. And so, but I did like that format. Just like you said, the 8 to 10 minutes was perfect. It was enough, but not a talking head too much, you know, so I liked that. Thanks for mentioning that, Glenn.
I just want to say one more thing. Glenn, in response to your last comment, I don't know if you noticed this, Julie, but in our new filing cabinet, I have a folder called Good of the Whole Productions.
I like that.
Awesome.
Nothing's in it yet, but soon there will be. Good of the Whole Production.
Put this whole template, in it, and you know, a layout. And I mean, one of the things Marion and I did for years was, you know, we helped design conferences like the Global Forum for, you know, with Gorbachev and the Dalai Lama, and with and the Soviet American Citizen Summits with Barbara. And we would choreograph, like you did, Judy, choreograph that down to the minute of what's going in here, what's music, all that. It's like, that's a valuable service that most people in our profession don't, nonprofit leaders don't have a clue about.
Yeah.
And it's set it up in a way that creates coherence and holds the love and holds the space. Could be our secret sauce.
Well, speaking of that secret sauce, this is a good potential format for a fundraiser for us.
Mhm.
So that's the only other thing that I mean, we could talk about a lot of different things today, and we don't have to go long with just 4 of us out of 6. But I did want to talk about the fundraiser, and, we've talked about that love-a-thon kind of feeling. And, I've heard Linda said this last week too. She was inspired, but John, I've heard you say, let's bring on the Charles Eisenstein, let's bring on the Jude Caravan, let's bring on the Alexander Laszlo, let's bring them into the connection field, and like bringing them into a fundraising piece for the good of the whole, a thematic kind of thing is one thing. Linda was so inspired on Saturday that she sent a note going, oh my gosh, we need to invite all these people into the connection field. We need to have the richness. And this is a connection field feedback that I'm getting. So, and this is pretty new that I'm getting this feedback from people, which I've never got before. So if you imagine the connection field, when we began it, we started out with a resonance lounge. That was it. And that's kind of how Shelley got to be in charge, because it was just the resonance lounge. That's what we were going to make ourselves available, to just have the resonance lounge. And then Brother Phil said, I'm coming in, I'm bringing all these people in. And then all of a sudden, all these people came in and they wanted to host. And then Shelley was juggling and doing her part. But I'm just now hearing, and I think it's because the community is able to express themselves now. I don't know if you've heard this, Andrea, or it's starting. I don't know if it's coming out of the connection field team, but what's now happening is many people are voicing that the connection feel like the fire wasn't representing them. So they never come to the fire. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. People aren't coming to the fire because it's not the people's fire. It was very Mayan and it was what have you. But as soon as we started unpacking that, where people were like free to say, I'm not relating to the fire, then all of a sudden, I'm hearing feedback of, I would rather have these kinds of offerings. I would like to have that kind of offering. I'm not seeing these things in the connection field, which it was this huge influx of Indigenous, which is great. It was wonderful. And it was wonderful that Brother Phil brought all those people in. We didn't bring those in. And I know Shelley feels like she was responsible for bringing it in, but Chief Phil Lane brought them in. And Chief Phil Lane said, hey, here's this person, here's this person, here's this person. And then that's what built a lot of our program to begin with. So I'm starting to hear feedback of, I'd like to have this in the connection field. I'd like to have that, which is interesting. And so then Linda got all excited. And she's like, look at all these people that we just highlighted on the Peace Forum. And we should be bringing in other people. And I've been feeling for a while of even inviting organizations to host an hour. What would it be like if Unity Earth had 1 hour a week on the connection field? Or, this was Bob Atkinson and a local community in Maine that got together for the Peace Forum. But look at the Truth Telling Institute, or whatever they're called, Truth Telling Institute? Like, what if they sponsored an hour every week and they came on with their community, so that, like, I'm just kind of listening and allowing that to breathe things open with more spaciousness and perhaps even more time zones, because it's really hard, like Australia, it's really hard to get them in, and other time zones. So I just want to open that up for the connection field, but then also think about that when I think of our fundraiser. and a format and a potential of what we could do. I've often thought, yes, a membership drive. Yes, we're giving our goods and our services and bidding, or, you know, silent auction and auction. I mean, there's tons of things we could do. But when it feels like an expo, like the Evolving World Expo, like, you know, something that's this big global event where we're highlighting all these different people who are doing amazing things on the planet, kind of feel. If you think of what was the World Fair in Chicago when it started in Chicago, wasn't it?
Mhm.
19, whatever it was, the World Fair. Like, what would a World Fair look like today? What would
1901.
1901? Wow, what a historian. And then when was the second one? So yeah,
1990. I don't know.
think of it like a virtual World Fair or an evolving World Expo. I know I said that to Shelley a couple of years ago, thinking about fundraiser, and she didn't like that idea of an expo, but it could be so amazing, especially right now with what's happening on the planet. If people could find what's going on and see all the good in the world. You know, it's all like a Barbara Marx Hubbard thing, Glenn, when Barbara would always say, what's working? We need to show the world what's working. What's working? What's working? So
What's working? What's new?
what's new and what's working? So just want to throw
Well,
that in.
yeah.
It's just,
I
yeah.
had some of that same thought when I started seeing all the different nonprofits that were represented on the last 3 days. And I kind of alluded to it a little bit in something I think I said in day 3 at the end of the program, but it's like we could offer, well, we could start with you know, we've got this huge resource library on our website of all these different nonprofits. And basically we could offer, hey, the people we like, our friends, whomever that have their nonprofit, and say, would you like to have an hour here? And what that would do was all those people that began to come to their hour would all have to be getting the Connection Field Digest. So basically for us, it's an email list expander. And then we have that master list that's getting the connection field. And as we grow that out and bring more and more of these nonprofits in, you know, for their hour a week, hour a month, what would they like? And maybe it's 2 hours, whatever. And we become more adaptive in terms of supporting them in their service and tying them into the Connection Field Digest, so that when we do our fundraiser, maybe we have a monthly expo of the best of what we found this month, and it's like, okay, here's what we've discovered, and we do it on the first, I don't know, the
First Friday.
Saturday afternoon, first Friday of the month or something, or it's the first, you know. I appreciated it being kind of in the 9 o'clock Eastern, I'm sorry, the 3 o'clock Eastern time zone. You know, it could be 3, 4, 5 Eastern, where people kind of have that happy hour, evening, whatever. And then, of course, that makes it easy for me out here in Hawaii to support. But we could start a monthly what's happening on the planet report. If it comes from good of the whole, but at the same time, we could begin to offer up to these nonprofits, which leads me to another conversation I had yesterday with Harrison Klein and Marbeth. Harrison wants to talk with us about introducing us to a TV production group called Ease TV or something, I don't know. Apparently they provide support for ABC, NBC, CBS, the major networks, and they're doing programming support. But he'd like to have a conversation with us, and I invited him to join up as a mentoring steward. I don't know if he has yet or not, he and Marbeth both. But they did sign up for the Connection Field Digest, and they were like, holy cow, you guys are doing all this? They were like shocked. And so that's just one example of if we can reach out and invite people in to use our platform and, support them in some minor way or way that works, but it would really grow our list.
Mhm.
And I think our list is key. Mark Porteous could probably help with that. And then we look at how do we monetize that in a way that serves the whole.
Can I
Some
add
people-
to that? Yeah, everything that Glenn is saying, what was coming to mind, I'm a huge fan of NPR, specifically like All Things Considered. I love those shows, and I really do see that. I mean, that's a nonprofit right there. NPR is a nonprofit. It's a production company. It's producing, it's broadcasting, it has allies that have organizations that are being supported. And when I think of the Connection Field, for example, as being this like incubation space for activism, for calls to resident action, I still see the Connection Field and that community project really holding collaborative calls to action, but I also see Good of the Whole as this production and as this space of holding productions and the Connection Field as a space for activism to happen through other organizations. So in a way, Good of the Whole, one of the ways that they're expressing their sacred activism is through creating space for organizations, specifically action-based organizations, to gain momentum and gain following and gain more exposure.
As you said that, I thought of the words "all things evolving,"
All Things Evolving.
hosted by Julie Crew.
And I have the Evolving Earth Expo, which is 3 E's. E3, the Evolving Earth Expo, because I think that I still like the Evolving Earth Expo. I think that piece is what's working. But I'm loving what you're saying, because everything that you're saying right here is the vision I've held for a long time of, number one, I love NPR and I love Krista Tippett. So for me, she's on my list of things to do, because I want her to mentor me to get that. She started out with NPR, and now she has a nonprofit and has the On Being Project. So I want to hear how she's doing the programming and the sponsorship and how she's getting the funding, because she's got huge grants and but obviously when you start on NPR, people are going to pay attention and you're going to get that back. So there's that piece. But there's also, thank you for bringing in the resource repository that we have on the website, Glenn, because I think this is another important piece for our emerging leaders and the global transition team, that they're getting the media, we're amplifying their voice, we're giving them the resources and tools that they need, and they're learning how to lead. And that's the other part. If you look on our home page, those are the 3 things that we've talked about with our leaders and our mentoring stewards. And very rarely do we talk about the media production piece, all things, what was it? All things what? I don't remember.
All things evolving.
All things evolving, from all things connected to all things evolving. But also that our whole resource repository is so rich and amazing, and no one's tending to it but me. Like, imagine what we would do if we had program managers that were tending to vetting those and getting them up and linking and communicating with them and expanding that whole resource, which would be amazing.
And the Connection Field, even though it's a community program, it's still a program that could really make that resource repository live. So it's not just a list of organizations, but it's a list of organizations that are actively contributing to Good of the Whole, and in return, we're actively getting the word out of their work. And I think the Connection Field can serve that purpose. And productions, other productions, expos.
So we end up with a combination of the people who have their slots right now, but we also preempt those slots for special events and for other things. And so the slots are kind of operated by people that are mentoring stewards and do their thing, but we occasionally preempt them for a special event.
I've got some feedback on that. Because I spend quite a bit of time in the residence lounge every day except Friday. I don't think we necessarily need to continue that residence lounge as we've done it. I love having that, but I know the thing is that if one of our goals is to reach a larger population, the residence lounge is not a place to do that. We have our people that come in week after week. There's a half a dozen I've monitored. There's about 6 people that are there all the time. At best, 10, 12, and that's 3 hours a day. And so it served its purpose. When COVID started, that's what we did. I mentioned it this morning in the thing, but
Time to evolve.
it's time to evolve. I really believe that. Now, the Monday morning call is still fantastic. That captures, there's always 10 to 20 people in there and new people coming in. So I feel like it's very important to have that, but to make it a mainstay throughout the week, I just don't feel like it's necessary anymore. Personally.
Sure.
And if we
And
didn't
maybe
have that, several people would move up and maybe get more prime time. Linda
Indeed.
and I are struggling with our offering. If you don't have an evening and you don't have the early morning, the whole afternoon is so bare bones right now. But imagine an organization coming in and planting in the afternoon where their community's coming in. It's like there's a product there of how we can help them with that and what have you. But if we had those residence lounge hours open, we would go right back into really what is the good of the whole programming for prime time, and we would use those slots. And
I totally agree with that.
yeah,
and prime time reflects whatever time zone you're in, because it's what's prime time for East Coasters is not for West Coasters and not for Australia. And so
yeah,
beginning to look at what we talked about really a long time ago was a 24/7 channel. It's like, okay, let's bring in. But I saw these other nonprofits, PurposeEarth.org, Earth Rising, this work that Kurt Johnson's doing. I mean, maybe we could support him and open up a whole other set of channels.
yep. And see, a lot of the people that, especially the first day, and I really want to just presence this, that oftentimes we go, who is the good of the whole community? And if you would ask Shelley that question, she'd go, the connection field is our community. And if you would ask me that, I would say that global network is our community. Because we are working with Purpose Earth and Unity Earth and Kurt Johnson, and those are good of the whole, but how do we allow that community to feel that that's our community? So I'm going to meet with Jude Curvan this week, and we're going to talk about transformational leadership, and whole world view is a big part of our community. And literally, perhaps that's how we create this structure, this organism that wants to hold all the, be this toroidal field of communication that comes in and goes out and comes in, the central nervous system of the one planetary body. But those organizations that you're saying, Glenn, are our friends. Now, I've never heard of the Truth Telling Project, and that was exciting. Like, oh, cool, new people to go get to learn and meet and know. But many of those people who we're in are our community too.
Right.
We have
Earth Guardians.
Earth Guardians, a huge one. Yeah.
And to cross-pollinate communities.
Yeah.
So we want to cross-pollinate, bring them a platform, and in the meantime, we get energized by their connection with us, and then we're really at the hub. We're the central hub that they can communicate with everybody, to invite everybody in our network to each of their programs, because they'll be highlighted in our connection digest, in our connection field digestion, or whatever we're putting out. So they get the benefit of the entirety of our list that's invited to their events too.
Now, the one thing that I would hate to lose would be, I'd put it in 2 words: coherence and resonance.
Yep.
You know, if we get a big variety of people, even if their mission is in the right place, if it's not held within the field that is good of the whole, then I think it's too not very well joined together. So, you know, and I think that's where the Resonance Lounge was about, coming in and understanding the unified resonant field. Now, if any organization says, or you know, who determines that? We determine it, whomever. You know, is that in alignment with the true our mainstay of resonance, and is that coherent with the larger program? Because if we get too far out there and get people that aren't, even if they're paying money, and if it's not in that field, then we're not doing ourselves any good.
I had 3 words. I had 3 words: coherence, resonance, and amplification.
And I think that, so I've spoken my voice to several global leaders this last couple weeks. And I've said this to people before, that there's so much noise. We need to create coherence. And several of those leaders, not several, but one in particular, but a couple of them that listen to this one in particular will say, the more the merrier, the better, more. We need everybody's voices out there. I'm like, no, you don't understand. There's just as much noise here as there is here. So you're competing with this noise, or you're competing positive noise or negative noise. You're competing with noise. We need coherence. And it's time for the islands of coherence to have coherence. So the Evolutionary Leaders Group was a big part of, they're doing this book. I'm doing a 9-week series on the book, Our Moment of Choice, for them. They were a big part of the September events. And if you notice, it was like this. The 11 days was spin your head, and the up convergence was like, holy moly. And what happened is they used our model, and they had all these different rooms going where you could get into any of these different rooms. Well, each of those rooms had just a handful of people in them. So it wasn't like thousands of people came in for the up convergence and they had all these channels to go through. They fought with the same population for the same programming. So you could only go to one room at a time. And so they did not amplify, and they did not hold coherence, and they did not create resonance. The up convergence was like in your face. So I spoke with several leaders and brought up just the 2 words. And that's why we created the coherence with Bob, was that we can't any longer just put a lot of noise out there and say that's good. It is time for the threads to be pulling through all of these now, so it can amplify. Glenn, see the difference? We can amplify that. We can amplify that DNA of that evolution that's happening right now by creating coherence with everyone that's on board. But we don't amplify if everybody just does their own thing. We literally, what's the opposite of amplify? It's like we mute each other out. There's so much noise, you can't hear one another. I don't know what the opposite of amplify is, but that's what it felt like. It felt like there was so much that it was congested, it was loud, it was obnoxious, it was harsh on your body. Like seeing all the options was like, whoa. And then literally we had a debriefing meeting and they were talking about all these, and then there's this room, and then there's this room. And I'm like, I didn't see any of those rooms. I didn't know there was a 4 elements room or a, you know, like, boy. So, so the leaders, when I shared this, I will be able to talk to the evolutionary leaders, the co-directors, about that, because they lack coherence and all of their people are doing their own things, and the organization doesn't know how to create coherence within all their members. So we have the opportunity to create the model that then can be, and this weekend was a good exercise in that, of how do you just pull those threads through so that we're amplifying and synergizing in a way that literally raises it an octave. Because right now their idea of synergy is just, oh wow, we're moving together and sharing each other's stuff on our pages. And that's the sign
Right.
network. So these are really, really, really good things. And yes, coherence, resonance, and amplification. The amplification only comes with coherence and resonance. Thank you.
Yeah, so part of doing that really means that we moderate every event until there's someone who's brought up and can take over that moderation skill, but has the resonance to hold the moderation field. So now I think we're back to the like the folks we've been training, the mentoring stewards we've been training to operate in the connection field. Is there, you know, are there some people there that can become, well, I guess I'm kind of seeing a career track here. I'm seeing that there's if we can prepare people to elevate our connection skills and our moderation skills to a place where we can moderate and hold that field. You know, right now, I mean, Julie, you're the best at doing that among us that I see. And so if we can amplify that and bring that up so that eventually we can replace you in some of these events, and other people can come up, and maybe they come from their own organization, but they go through some kind of a training, like John is, you and Shelley have put together to train the mentoring stewards. And so we create that capacity building for people who can hold the space of application, of resonance and coherence in a way that can serve these third-party, I'll call them third-party nonprofits that come in to use our space, but we moderate those spaces with them. So we're in a collaboration role. We're not just going to bring them in, give them an hour, and turn them loose, but we hold that resonance in that space in some way. I'm complete.
I think mentoring, I think mentoring stewards is a subset of global transition specialists. Global transition specialist takes it to another level of broader organizational understanding of resonance. Mentoring stewards are the soldier foots on the ground going in to any situation and implementing what the global transition specialist has set up in a broader scale. I'm telling you, for me right now, I get a lot of advertising, I'll call it advertising, from very well-minded groups, organizations that really don't understand resonance at all. They just don't, they're not operating from the field. They're operating from a belief system or a deep passion for what they're bringing through with quite a bit of limitation. And it almost feels like I don't want to call it a religion, but certainly a point of view. Whereas good of the whole is the view itself, if we can use that language. And global transition specialist is moving from the separation model that still a lot of the well-hearted, minded organizations want to flow into, but they don't have that skill set of that what they're really channeling is the higher frequency octave of the resonant field, the unified field. And so we have two pieces here. We have one of foot soldiers. God love us all, we're all foot soldiers, holding resonance. But then there is the larger context of almost forming a group of global transition specialists that would be hired to go into each one of these well-meaning organizations and offer this platform that is coming from, not from the old paradigm push to educate people in the way that we've always done it.
I would like to speak on that really quickly, John. I've seen, not particularly where good of the whole's focused, but I've seen similar things happen inside organizations where people do go in and they work to bring coherence and connection to teams, to organizations, to work together, you know. And I think what good of the whole aspires to offer is particularly that kind of to the next level. You know, not only how do we work together as a team without separation, but how do we work in the world without separation and in this field? So, you know, like what you're speaking about, like, does exist. And I can say from my experience working in nonprofits, there's a need for it. There's a hunger for it. And organizations do want to learn how to work more effectively, not necessarily on skills, but in coherence. I've seen that. So just to like reiterate that.
There might be a mid-level practitioner that's just like the resonance leaders, the resonant leadership, mid-level practitioner piece. And the global transition specialists are really like the Peace Corps, where perhaps they learn this is about whole systems health, whole systems healing, whole systems change, whole systems, and yet they have a specialization perhaps in education or healthcare or governance, or so that they know those, or they are a generalist, but they literally are these subspecialized, like if you think of in a healthcare, you have a sub-specialized surgeon that comes in to do that one neurosurgery that's so precise. So when we train the global transition specialists, they're getting everything from resonant leadership, yes, as a module, but what is whole systems health? What is a whole world view? How do we adapt? And so they're getting that, but they're also able to go into any realm, any sector of society and assist from the inside out, whether it's corporations or whether it's literally transitioning education in Tel Aviv, you know. So it could be anything. So when you think about the Peace Corps begins to register. You go in and you're working on you're working on the ground in the Peace Corps with a place in dire need, and you're sent in and you're there and you're working with them. So think of the Evolutionary Corps and this global transition specialist as having that ability so that we can literally say, well, there's someone on the ground here and here, and we're going in here. And yes, it's like a consultant, John, like you and I've talked about, but it's so much more than that, because you become, resonance and coherence is the basic, and then you learn about whole systems health and healing and transformation. So when we're transforming social systems, they come from the ground of resonance and coherence, and yet they come from that cosmic, global, huge worldview. So I love what's emerging here, and we got a lot of pieces on the table here, but I think this is really exciting. And I'm looking at this from also, like Andreas talked about, that call to resonant action, and we're talking about the Resonance Lounge connection field, and then all of a sudden all these other nonprofits, and like the need, those three words, coherence, resonance, amplification. It's like, we will, if we open ourselves to all of this, we will begin weaving something really amazing that goes back. If you look at the front page of Good of the Whole, it brings that map alive now, in how, yes, we train, we equip, and we amplify these leaders. Those are the three pieces that we've talked about that's in our mission. We're training these leaders. We're providing that education piece. We're starting that on Kajabi, whether that's the mentoring stewards, or whether that's a mid-level, or whether that's the global transition specialist. They become apprentices, and we're training them, and then we're equipping them with all those resources, just like we said, and these skills and these tools that are unique, that not everybody's getting. And then we begin to amplify their work wherever they're called, because they're, I mean, I'm getting, like, my list of today is so simple on this page of what we've talked about, but I'm seeing it come into multi-dimensional form off my page of going, look, you guys you're in the vision as the vision is presenting itself. You're in it. You're playing in the vision with this. Now, what does this have to do with our fundraiser? Well, I think probably everything, because we can pull some threads through and create something really fun out of this. And create a model that probably, like, coming out of our weekend, we did good. We were a great team, and Good of the Whole entered a whole different realm, and I can't explain what that was and anything, but there's a call. This is another piece. Let me just drop one more thing in. Shelley Ostroff had this vision and called me, and we met, and I love her words, because she used global transition. She knows I'm working on the global transition team, the global transition specialist. And she said, we have to hold this vision. She's going to do the World Water Law for 2021. She's bringing in these pieces, but she saw global transition that was seamless and overnight. Now, this is whole systems healing, whole systems transformation. She was seeing it, instead of it being, oh, all these social systems are breaking down, all the breakdowns are leading to breakthroughs, and oh, we got to deconstruct governing systems in every country on the planet. We got to deconstruct. Instead of it being civil war, she was seeing global transition that is seamless and overnight. Imagine that vision. Has anyone said that? We're all talking about this evolutionary impulse working on the planet, but as we're looking at the systems and structures breaking down, we're going, yeah, look at all the chaos. Yeah, look at all the chaos. And we stay separate from it going, yeah, we know it's happening. But she's wondering and inviting, can we hold a vision without all the chaos? Can we hold the vision of the global transition happening seamlessly and overnight? And that's what we're preparing these people for, that they can go in and assist wherever. Yes, John, go ahead.
I really thought we were going to talk the whole hour, the whole 2 hours, whatever we do here, on the fundraiser, but you brought something up that I was already somewhat prepared for around the fundraiser. And that is, the format. Do we do it 1 day, 2 day, 3 day? What are we doing with that? And then holding that higher frequency vision, bringing in experts that are already, to one extent or another, holding that vision, bring in someone from the scientific field, from the environmental field, from the sociocultural field, from the racial field, from dealing with systems change in federal, city, county governments, someone from the religious field, over the time interwoven with our resonance people that are us, but bring in these different categories that understand and are already in that evolved place, that we're not dealing with, well, we're screwed here and here's what we might do in order to be unscrewed. We don't need to go there. So, but if you can imagine, like having a Shelley Ostroff or Jude or whomever is a name in this evolutionary process that we are coming in, and having those headlined for a fundraiser, man, I think, like you said, Jules, I think we could use our fundraiser as the basic test template for moving on to our greater global events.
Mm-hmm. Can I speak to that really quickly? I'm glad that you brought up the fundraiser. We've been talking about it in this weird kind of way. I've been taking notes if we've been talking about kind of the future plans and where we are now. As speaking of the fundraiser, I think it's really important also to remember that even though we're potentially bringing in these experts that are kind of highlighting what Good of the Whole is doing with planetary work, also highlighting what we are doing and really getting clear of, what our deliverables are, what our story is, how it came to be, how the projects that are currently on the table came to be, and what are the deliverables. Because it would be really interesting to, as this fundraiser comes into being, it's paralleled with the launching of Kajabi. It's paralleled with the launching of an upgrade to our social media, which I'm hoping to start looking at very soon, where we are broadcasting on other networks besides Facebook, but easily and efficiently, where we are also highlighting the community so we can ask for sponsorship as well. So it's not just about people coming in and donating money, but maybe even organizations coming in or aligned corporations coming in that are willing to actually sponsor projects, I think is a piece that we also want to just be aware of as we're planning the fundraiser, because it would be really awesome to have, a sponsor for the Connection Field or even Ohana Legacy Foundation. But, I haven't been working much with you, Glenn, so excuse me if I'm always the Connection Field. I realize that is not the Good of the Whole. The Good of the Whole is way bigger, and I'm excited to see Ohana Legacy Foundation evolve. It really, my history with sustainable community development. It's a passion of mine. But yeah, like to have the Connection Field sponsored, have that in a place where there's money coming in so it can be really managed very precisely and very keenly and very seamlessly.
I totally agree. I'm on board.
Well, I have a thought here that's emerging to me, and it's like, what about having a monthly fundraiser? And we pick a time every month, and we have like a 2 or 3 hour period where we have 3 or 6, 8 speakers, presenters that are talking about what's rocking in their zone. And we of course host that and moderate that, and there's some music introduced, a little bit like what we did for this weekend, but there's some music and there's some fun things in this little 3 hour pop. And we invite people to donate to the good of the whole, that you know, or become sustaining members, or well, I think we need a little expanded structure in terms of our donation, or our how people join. I mean, right now we have mentoring stewards, so you know, we continually need to kind of clean that up a little more, make that more sharply focused, in my view. But the idea that we're going to evolve that mentoring steward program into, I mean, is that an entry-level program for the broader piece? But to have a monthly event that highlights what's cooking and what's going on, and invites, hey, sponsors for that, invite donations within that, and in some kind of engagement. And people who they can become, again, sustaining members of Good of the Whole, or I don't know, there's again, we kind of need levels of sponsorship or something that's more serving, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think getting really clear on who our audience is and when, because our membership audience, our community donation audience is a different audience than maybe a funding partner, you know, and being able to know when to speak to who. And
I still think we need an initial event as a prototype.
It's a kickoff.
As a kickoff, right? And have it, you know, I mean, I vision after every speaker, after every piece that we provide, there is a call out saying, you love this, here's right now, don't wait later, send your donation in. This is what's being built, you know, and make it very immediate. And you know, just like NPR, not NPR, but PBS does. It's like they do a program, then they come on for 5 minutes and go, this is the type of programming, this is the type of elevation that we're talking about here. Please be part of it, and even offer them something. You know, here's David, my friend, said he's worked on a number of pieces of art that could be offered as, you know, and music or whatever it might be, and make it an actual event where at the end and set a goal. What do we want? $10,000, $100,000? Let's and pop it in. I feel like it's urgent.
yeah,
So
we need to do the, I'm sorry, Julie.
So I am at that urgent place too. And what I'm synthesizing here is, and I'm going to go back to my title because I love it. It's E3, Evolving Earth Expo. So we have the Evolving Earth Expo, which could evolve into the first Friday of every month. We do a 2 to 4:30. I loved those hours. For me, it was 2 to 4:30. East Coast, it was 3 to 5:30. And I loved those hours. But anyway, if we think of one event right now, which we're calling the Evolving Earth Expo. So we're giving, this is the one thing I've learned with Airbnb out of nowhere. Like, I've always told Kevin I couldn't be a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. Kevin does sales. He's like, you sell something every day. And I'm like, I don't want to be a salesperson. But what I learned after managing our Airbnb is you have a really good product and you describe it really well and you build it and they will come. Like, literally, I communicate really well. I keep it super clean. everybody loves our Airbnb and it's already booked out 2 years. So I get that part. This Evolving Earth Expo is giving, like Andrea says, who's the audience here? Well, look at all these organizations that are wanting to stay connected, that literally the thing is the network of networks. And I'm like, no, we're building a super organism here. And Jude Curvan is right with me. We begin building the super organism. Other people are staying in separation, saying it's time to build the network of networks. So you're hearing that all over. Networks of networks. Well, they're holding everything in separation. We're not. We're building the super organism. But this Evolving Earth Expo is designed to showcase the achievements of organizations and what's working. Okay? It's designed to showcase the achievements of these organizations and what's working. And there's always the education piece, and there's this elevation piece, obviously, because we're honoring somebody. We could give an award out during this Evolving Earth Expo, give a few awards out. They're bringing their communities in because they're going to receive an award. We're building that list. We're building the overall community, and there's always a call to action. So somehow we're going to build in the call to resonant action, just like you're saying with David and others. There's the call to action. And during this Evolving Earth Expo, if you think about the World Fair, I've never been to a World Fair, obviously. I don't know what a World Fair is, but I've been to the state fair. I've been to local fairs, county fairs. And if you think about an Evolving Earth Expo, what our mentoring stores and community can bring in with art and music. And I'm going to give away 6 sessions to be auctioned off. So I'm going to give 6 coaching sections that will be worth $2,000, and we auction it off. And somebody else gives, like Linda, her book that you buy it for this much, it all goes to. So we have those. Think about a world fair or an expo. It's like literally, if you go to a county fair or state fair, you could stop in all these booths and see what's going on. But once you get to the main stage, we're showcasing the achievements of organizations on a global scale, that someone can take those models, services, programs, goods, and implement it in their own community. So that this isn't just for those evolutionary leaders, it's for Boulder or Minden, Nebraska or Kauai that says, you know what, we want to work on housing. We're going to go see what Ohana Legacy Foundation's doing. What's the model that they're doing? What are those? So that's what I'm seeing for this.
Might be restorative justice.
What?
Might be restorative justice.
Could be restorative justice. Look at all the
and
people.
I got the chills, so I think we're on something here. So, and we do this, again, we do this on a monthly basis, so we can begin to schedule people out, 3 months from now, 4 months from now. People would begin to line up to want to be highlighted. And we make it available to, again, our friends. It might as well start where we are, right? And start with people we love. And
so we have
use that as a fundraiser for the whole.
I'm seeing this huge event to begin with, and then these monthlies going every month until next year, our huge event again.
Yeah.
So that
there you go.
It's just 2.5 hours once a month leading up to next November, when we have the huge Evolving Earth Expo again, where everybody's coming on, and there's thousands of people that are really involved in doing something really big. And then every month we keep doing our little pieces of it, little doses of it. So we plan a big Evolving Earth Expo event.
And Julie, once we're out of Zoom COVID, then we go on to main stage in a production company, a video company like you were talking about, where it's a live presentation, and people can tune in via technology on a much grander scale than Zoom.
Yeah.
One of the, I talked to Julie about this. I was starting to get trained in a fundraising model called Benavon. It stopped. I was through my other job, and they didn't have the funding to keep that going. They had to deal with other more urgent things in their nonprofit world. But one of the basis of the model was having that one event every year, and then monthly events that were even held by the community, that were held by ambassadors of the organization. So ambassadors of Good of the Whole can really help shape, they're the spokespeople. So it's not always Good of the Whole speaking on behalf of Good of the Whole, but Good of the Whole community ambassadors speaking on behalf of Good of the Whole. And then of course that big event each year. So I just, on that note of what you're saying, it really resonates with that very grassroots model that somebody planned out in the 80s that has been helping organizations raise money up until now, that I was hoping to get trained in, but I got enough to understand the gist of it. And it is empowering our community and our ambassadors to really be our allies, be our ambassadors, be our voice, be the good of the whole. And yeah, for those monthly
One other
sessions.
little aspect of this. So we've got this idea for the fundraising thing, and back to our conversation a little bit on the hosting of and moderating of other events for other nonprofits or other organizations. John, you brought up the idea of funding and fundraising. So if Good of the Whole is receiving funds for the moderation of, of a one-day event or something for another organization, there could be a split of the money that's received by Good of the Whole, maybe 50-50 with the moderator and the little support team that's putting that on. So there could be a funding mechanism or an income mechanism for our moderators and people who are, taking on holding the resonance and the coherence
Absolutely.
for that organization.
Absolutely. I feel like that piece, Glenn, is so, as this progresses, so important. Good of the Whole doesn't want employees, but Good of the Whole wants reciprocity with those people that are providing a service that is essentially bringing in the revenue for the expansion of Good of the Whole. And there has to be that reciprocity there at some level as this develops.
So it looks like to me we've got two good ideas here for bringing in revenue sources from our conversation. Awesome. Let's rock.
Let's breathe into this. Let's breathe in. I'm really loving what presented. And we debriefed from the Peace Forum, and look how that totally infused and informed. I mean, what we just went through helped to inform and infuse this on a whole new level, which is really exciting.
It is evolving. Julie, is there a recording of the Peace Weekend that can be re-watched?
Yes, it's on the Facebook Live for day 2, day 3 are on there. We'll have to, I know there's a way that you can literally download that, and I don't know if still how to do that. I'm sure we could figure that out. So there's that, and then there's a YouTube video of all day 1 and part of day 1 from the music. That having Kristen perform live on Friday night. See, like
it was beautiful.
Like those kinds of things on the Evolving Earth Expo to begin with, and having that live music, and even like how we had Cornflower for our caravan stop. Remember when Cornflower came in and he literally we could really do some damage.
Yeah, people have a lot of fun and light, uplifting, a lot of joy, and just a lot of new ideas that get lit up in people. And it's like remembering, hey, what's mine to do? How big can I play? Let's go bold. Just a couple of 3 or 4 themes like that with gratitude. Love more. And let's really bring back this Love More product line. I mean, we've got these Love More, maybe #Go Bold. We could do a kind of a few things that just really speak out and let people carry our message out further. go bold for the good of the whole.
Love that deep breath. Let's really ground this in. Let's just take a few deep breaths. Really allow that to move through all that high voltage, high amplification, bringing it in and grounding it, and really inviting that field of potentiality to continue to expand here as we're looking at this annual event and the monthly events and the structure and the form and the hosting and all the benefits of membership and the benefits of this education and bringing alive all these other elements that we've talked about. They all work together, from the global transition team to mentoring stewards and resonant leadership, really to that call to action and that serving global transition that moves seamlessly and overnight, that literally we're equipping leaders around the planet that can step into communities, holding that ease and the joy and the growth and the evolution, that literally this is the impulse of evolution working through us. This is conscious evolution that we respond to in this moment, saying yes to conscious evolution and no to all those feared, all the different scenarios that people talk about as systems and structures collapse, that we literally have this emergent field stepping in to create continuity and coherence and resonance around the world. We begin right here with us, that we are a resource to really help, from national governance to a small school or a small corporation or a locally owned business, small communities. Really, this is providing a vital need, providing a vital resource that fills a need, a huge need. And really, in providing that need, creates the DNA of this superorganism that's wanting to be born. Thinking that intelligence that's guiding us, thinking the vision that we hold, thinking the resonance and coherence that invite it to create the conditions for all of it to come forward. Sitting in gratitude for Bob Atkinson and the One Planet Peace Forum that inspired us and lifted us, created this model. So breathing that in, the Evolving Earth Expo, whatever that wants to be.
This is not an idea to develop. This is a calling to manifest.
Yeah. With those three words, coherence, resonance, and amplification. That we will. Thank you for that, John. It is a call. It's a call for us.
Woo!
Woo, what's on? Wow.
Woo!
Wow.
What is that? Look, we got the housing started too over in Kauai. Did you know we got the housing started? Woohoo!
Yeah, I like that a lot better than yum. Woohoo!
I like that too. Mm. Thank you
Yeah,
all.
I don't know if I've told the rest of the group, Julie, but John, I don't know if you and Andrea know, but we have a client for our housing. We have another nonprofit here on Kauai that wants us to build 2 duplexes using 3D printing. They'd like us to be their construction company.
Wow.
They have the land, and the site will be ready to build on, they estimate, in March or April of next year.
Holy cow, Glenn.
And we're supposed to see architecture drawings this week. And then I'll pass those on to our architects, Ricardo, to see what we need to think about in terms of converting those to a 3D printing kind of a thing, because they're, stick built. And we're in a loose partnership with Habitat for Humanity. And
Amazing.
so we do this as a proof of concept. And then there, this particular group is called PAL. It's a permanently affordable housing that's in partnership with Habitat for Humanity. And they have another 30 homes after this that they'd like us to consider if this all works out. So basically, we're their construction partner, and they have funding, and they'll pay us to build these. And the question is, what's the charge?
Rock and roll.
Awesome.
Anyway, it's continuing to evolve.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Looking at moving more seriously into grant writing. How do we get a grant in place for bringing our 3D printing machinery onto the island, and we need probably putting together that number that we need to raise. It's basically startup funds for this construction company, probably on the order of $300,000 to $500,000 to launch.
I am also
Awesome.
Going for it.
to explore the Global Purpose Fund, which we played yesterday. No, we played Saturday, a video on the Global Purpose Fund. So I'm going to explore a small grant for us to have for administrative, more than the connection field. I'm thinking there's some other piece. Maybe it's the first Evolving Earth Expo. I don't know.
The Evolving Earth Expo on an initiation and continuing basis, along with the service to other organizations to use our platform.
Yeah.
And just the capacity, general capacity for the organization,
Yeah.
which holds all of it.
Andrea, did I tell you I'm glad you're here?
Thank you, John. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad.
I didn't hear that. Could you repeat it? I didn't hear that.
We are very glad you're here, Andrea.
We are glad you're here, Andrea.
I love it here. Thank you. Thank you for, I'm just in gratitude. Every moment I'm inspired by all of you. I learn every day from all of you, and having Julie that I get to speak with almost every day is pretty amazing. So it's great seeing you all in action, and thanks for trusting me.
So if nothing else would ever happen, the visceral champagne bubble feeling in the pit of my stomach is worth this. All right.
Hey, John, and you'll be over here in Kauai one day soon.
As soon as I can possibly put it together, Glenn.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all. Thank you.
All right, y'all.
Thank you. I'm really happy how productive this was with just the 4 of us. Thank you. Thank you. I love the co-creative impulse that was moving with us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Got a
Yes,
lot of work to do.
I have lots of notes. So if you need any support getting on Trello, let me know. We could even do some test runs. I can send you little notes and we can see if you get a little alert. Happy to do that. Glenn, you have some notes for you, and please, if you need that work to be passed along, just tell me. I'll find somebody else. But just simple. Part of it is I want to make sure that I'm capturing not only the logistical documents that need to be created, but that I'm also capturing the essence of good of the whole. That's partly why I want you to look at them, because I want to make sure there's that coherence in my work. So.
I'm just looking at my emails and I don't see anything from Trello here.
Yeah. Are you watching your list on Trello?
Let's see. I'm just going to go to my phone and see. Look at my app.
Folks, I gotta run.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Bye-bye, I love
And
you all.
Julie, would you stay just a second so we can coordinate with Harrison on the time that would work for you to meet with Harrison?
Stop the